Welcome to the Out There channel live stream 435.
Hiding, I'm searching, I'm loving, I'm finding love, I'm hiding.
So we're gonna find some love today, people. Or haters.
I'm finding love.
CPU peak a wee bit, I suppose.
Let the beat control your body.
Time to party. Follow me down, people.
I'm searching, I'm loving, I'm finding.
CPU peeking there a bit. Hello. I noticed I had Zoom on last time. And I think that may increase the CPU too. Good to be back. Note the side rules there. No trolling. Hopefully the audio's alright. As it stopped crackling. CPU's there we go. That sounds alright.
I don't know. It doesn't look like a glitch.
Doesn't look like a glitch. Yeah, looks like we got no one watching. Anyway, I'll just post out the comments. Hello. One out there. Ah, right, we got something pop up. Scott from Oz. So, got to go. Okay, something else has got his attention. Welcome. Pop up in the way. Let's try that again. Welcome to the OT channel live stream or show 435. Part 2 of Journey into the fourth dimension. This is like a research live we can join in if you like science, thinking outside the box, what the universe is, how aliens might travel through space and time, all that sort of stuff, and portals. Hey, that's it. How's it going? Looks like I lost someone from Oz before. Looks like something else come up. It finally popped up. There's a wee bit of lag there. So you might remember part 1, we're looking at, I'll just bring up the information. I got 36 there. Should be 35. Got to adjust the pillows for my back. It hurts a wee bit. Yeah. So last time we were looking at impact craters and creating a map of where these events happened. In fact, we're probably going to have to create several maps, which we could refer to. I probably have to set it aside and store it somewhere. So where is the map that we're looking at here? Map of everything. Okay. So you might remember that we were working on that last time, and I want to concentrate more on North America and Alaska. And you can see that these impact craters, big ones, seem to correspond to where strange anomalies were happening in the world. Especially in Mexico there, look. And California. And mostly over Kentucky there, look. And I reckon there's quite a few more missing. That's what we determined. So we got all the different triangles that we're looking at, and 37th parallel, which runs straight through Skinwalker Ranch. How about that? And the four corners, and the Kentucky goblins. You might remember that's a UFO case. And that's meant to be like the paranormal highway there. And we got the Dragon Triangle out to sea here next to Japan. But we found out there was some missing information, because I said it kind of looks like an impact area here by these lines underneath the sea, and sure enough we found some information that backed it up here. Alright. Which is quite interesting. But I think there's other areas like that. Alaska seems a wee bit barren when you compare it to all these other ones over the top of the Arctic here, and the Great Lakes triangles. But yeah, so we got to do more on that. Should be quite interesting to see what we come up with. Be good to overlay. It'd be good to have like a base map where you can just overlay the current UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings, paranormal events. Imagine if you had that sort of information, interactive database, visual database. Now you might have seen similar shows on TV using big data. Expedition Bigfoot is one of them. And looks like they got quite successful where the next possible sightings were going to occur. And of course they wanted to choose somewhere remote, so other people didn't interrupt their investigations. And yeah, that was getting quite interesting. They did find some incredible evidence and some strange stuff. Where Bigfoot seemed to be there, staring at them, and then suddenly orbs appear and they fade away to nothing, the Bigfoots. Which is like stepping into these so-called portals or doorways. So yeah, there's a lot more going on than we realise. So yeah, all these other little bits of maps around it. But eventually we'll get to go back to this one here. Oh no, that was all the locations of all the pyramids, the main pyramids anyway, which all seem to go in a certain little part of the world here. So that was other theories that I was looking into. Wind currents and airships. Where's the base map? Map of everything. That one there, was it? So we need to go back to that at some stage. Might leave it to the end, and we'll overlay city names on that. So Alaska Triangle's up here, I think, and we only got one impact crater, which is kind of strange. To me, it looks like there's some curvature happening here, which looks like, you know, see this whole area here. That to me looks like one big crater that happened there. So yeah, I think they're sort of missing stuff. And you got this one here, these little dots coming around here. Looks like maybe there was something there. One Antarctica. Now you might remember all the freak waves. A lot of the freak waves and ships go missing is in South America here. South Africa. It's going to be some crazy, and of course South America do have some crazy stuff happening too. And they have the freak waves. Australia, they certainly got a lot more detailed impact craters there. And there seems to be a void over here near New Zealand. But you can see here there's some curvature bits that seem to suggest maybe there were some impacts here out to sea as well. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So on with what the fourth dimension is. Okay, where's my... did I close it down? I must have done. That was meant to be that one there. That one there. So I'll be looking at the fifth dimension. Fourth dimension. As long as we don't get sabotaged with all this banners. Alright, so we're looking at, alright, that's right, the pilot thing. Have I got the image up here? We're talking about the Navy pilot sighting of a UFO, which was a square inside a sphere. And I got 2D and 3D images of that. So let's see if that can fit in with the fourth dimension and multiverse theory, that these things can pop in and out of existence and have a bit of fun with pilots. So like I said, it's like an investigation episode, so let's find out what the fourth dimension is. So we'll start with a new search. In the process, we might find something really interesting. As long as my back doesn't hurt for too long. Alright, so straight away we got some images of what looks like the explanation of what a fourth dimension is. Okay, so they've got a cube inside a cube, which is kind of like a sphere, a cube inside a sphere, isn't it? When you think about it. Except for space itself has been bent. So let's have a look at the diagrams here. So we got 0 dimension, which is a dot. First dimension, which is a line. it's 2D, and we know is a square or one side of an object. It's probably a better way to describe it. And 3D is all sides of an object, although we could only visually see 3 sides, which is kind of interesting. And the fourth one they're saying is in this one here, it's this cube that's moving through space. So that's what they're saying the fourth dimension is there, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This one here seems to fit better. Now this one's based on SpaceTime, I believe. And this one here I'm not too sure on, but this one sort of fits what the pilot saw. So let's see what they say here. Obviously these guys base it on theories and mathematics, right? Remember, mathematics is not a proof. It's only a tool to help you predict things. Most people are familiar. Okay, so let's just get the reader to read that out, because my eyes are not too terribly good today. Let's see how it goes anyway. This is a top of line reader, so it should sound normal.
Most people are familiar with the third dimension that we live in. All objects have a length, width, and height, and can be measured in all 3 dimensions, no matter the object. For 2-dimensional figures, objects have a length and a width, but not a height. In 1 dimension, the only objects that are able to exist are lines and line segments. But what exactly do objects look like in the 4th dimension? In truth, nobody really knows what the 4th dimension looks like because nobody has been exposed to it. The concept of a 4th dimension was first proposed by Joseph Louis Lagrange in the mid-1700s. Though there are a variety of beliefs and thoughts about what the 4th dimension is, one of the most popular beliefs is time. Though it was not a very popular belief at the time, the concept was later extended and revived in the 1800s by Charles Howard Hinton, who popularized the concept with his essay, What is the 4th Dimension?, which explained the character.
Okay, so they mention the 4th dimension is time, which fits in with quantum theory and Einstein's theory of space-time, right? Something solid moving through time. Which is kind of strange, like when you hear people talking about entities from the 4th dimension. Well, time is not got volume, right? We're still looking at 3D moving through time, which is our normal universe. Like a planet is 3D moving through time and space. So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, popping through a portal from the 4th dimension. So you can see there's straight away a bit of conflict in thinking here. It doesn't fit in with the conventional science. And obviously that's why it's called fringe science. But this is the area we delve into, thinking outside the box. So this sit in the middle, and in between black and white is grey. Mr. Grey will be the truth. So everything can't be black and white, although everybody in the world wants it to be, especially scientists.
Characteristics of objects in the 4th dimension. Many believe that in the next dimension, people will be able to manipulate time in their desire. The 4th dimension is truly a complicated concept with many factors and physics behind it. In the 2nd dimension, objects have a length and width, putting them in an X and Y plane. In the 3rd dimension, we add another plane, giving objects an X, Y, and Z plane. In the 4th dimension, we add yet another variable, giving objects in the 4th dimension an X, Y, Z, and W plane. The fundamental object in the 4th dimension is known as the tesseract. This 4D object was featured and inspired in many movies, such as The Avengers and Thor, Ragnarok. Although this object may not be comprehensible today, scientists are working their way towards a discovery of the fourth dimension. Many possible visual any movies such as The Avengers and Thor, Ragnarok.
Stop.
Although this object may not...
I was hitting the wrong place. I thought you could tap on the page to pause it, but you can't. It is repeating the line above. But anyway, so this is the thing they said was a tetra what? A what? A cube inside a cube, but it's then connected to the corners. Which doesn't fit in too well with Mother Nature, really, does it? Mother Nature likes spheres, and this is where, again, the pilot thing seems to fit in better. The filled, the next level of filled would be typically a sphere rather than a box. So technically, I suppose we are a box as well, because we're three-dimensional. So yeah, interesting.
Not be comprehensible today, scientists are working their way towards a discovery of the fourth dimension. Many possible visual representations of 4D objects have already been created, and scientists are investing a lot of time and work into learning more about this strange concept. Proof of the fourth dimension has been discovered by several scientists across the world, including major scientists such as Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein. This paved the way to what may be one of the most famous formulas to have been ever created, the theory of special relativity by Albert Einstein. Though not much is known about this new dimension, it can definitely open up new possibilities for scientists and researchers. Fourth dimension.
So yeah, I don't see how a box inside a box represents time though, compared to the other images that we saw. But I suppose they were overlaying it with the images here, rather than, but it's the same size, you see. So which one's correct? Box in the box means the fourth dimension is actually bigger, which makes more sense to me, rather than it being the same size but moving. So yeah, I don't think they got this right. There's no one of it. Still think that's wrong. Now, I think this is more heading to the correct visual aspect of it here, where it kind of looks like a wormhole. But I think that's more the fifth dimension. We'll just keep looking down, see what else we got. Here we go. So what are they saying on this one? Why time has to be a dimension. So again, they're applying it to space-time. Time's not a physical thing though. It's a perceived thing. Well, we know the third dimension is a thing, so the fourth dimension's got to be something similar, but we are unable to feel it. So I think they got it totally wrong here. But then again, I'm no super scientist. I'm just going by what makes common sense to me. So sure enough, it will affect time in the sense that when you pass through a cone like this, time could seem to speed up to you, but it will never go backwards. So you actually shorten the distance, right? You're sort of jumping through space in a different way from one point to the other. So time's going to be affected, right? But it's not part of the equation, which Einstein's tried to add in. Now Einstein's right about E equals mc squared, and the fact that we know this with the atomic bombs, where atoms can release more energy than the atom itself when it's broken apart. So that part of it he's correct, but the rest of it, space-time, I think maybe he was even not too happy with it. I think you'll probably find out. Hey buddy, how's it going? I always thought, I better read the other screen, didn't I? It takes a wee bit trickier to get over here than the other screen. I always thought the fourth dimension was represented as time. That's what they're saying here. But that's only if you stick with Einstein's theories. It's tied to time and what is physical. I think the fourth dimension is something real, while time is something perceived. So it's not incorporating it into space-time, to me, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Other than travel time is shortened. But time only moves forward. Alright? If it could go backwards, then we'd have all sorts of paradox and problems in science itself. That means you better undo all the wrongs, right? It means if a world war begun, then you could go back in time and stop it from happening. It's good sci-fi, but not reality. So yeah, I kind of like that one here. So if you go back to my original multiverse theory, this is how I think it all fits. Now remember, I got this through a dream, and it was after the alien visits I got. So yeah, whether I was showing something and I can't remember, I don't know. But maybe they chose me for a reason, and maybe this is part of the reason. So yeah, so we've got two universes which are spheres. Now, you could say, what's in the membrane of them? Well, this is where the fourth dimension comes in. What holds the universe together? We know the universe is made up of atoms, but what holds the universe together? And Tesla said there's a thing he called the ether field, which exists through the whole universe. So how would you draw that? That's a good question. I suppose it would be like something that's overlaid all around the main universe, something like that. So that would be the ether. Now, I talked about portals. Now, what would a portal be? Well, the portal will have to be a connection between universes. Would have to be the fifth dimension, because here the ether is the fourth dimension that we don't sense it around us, but it exists. It binds everything together in the universe. This is how I'm seeing it anyway, and of course it doesn't fit in with all the space-time quantum mechanic guys out there, and I don't care, because they can't prove what they have, and I can't really prove my gut feeling on it. So so you've seen wormholes. So I think a portal is like a wormhole, which needs an incredible lot of energy to produce it, but actually joins between universes. How do I get that rotated? So the best one we got, I'd like to see a wireframe cone. That's 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional, isn't it? We got something better than that. What's that one there? Next. That one's got the circle in it. Okay. How about that one? Alright. That's not quite a cone, it's a cup. Pyramids, or sort of. Yeah, I don't think we've got a wireframe. Damn it. That one, that cone one, might have to be the best one. Okay, let's get rid of that one. That one. Come on. What's going on here? So, you could say, could aliens use that to jump between universes or through our own universe? Well, yes. So there's other universes out here, all around. Let's see. Different colour. So there's universes all around, different ages, different sizes. That sort of bump into each other. Technically, you could use it like a Stargate Atlantis. Each universe you could bounce a wormhole between that universe to get to the other side of this universe, right? But there'll be limitations to how far you could travel. So are we seeing parts of that already in our universe with UFO sightings? I think we are. They only seem to appear at certain points around our planet. So, how far this wormhole goes in is another question. Can they target into a planet inside? So inside the universe you've got planets. So there's a lot of thinking in theory to think outside the box on this sort of stuff. So here would you draw a planet? Well, maybe you should just do it two-dimensionally. Let's have a look. Circle, solid, blue one. So there's planet Earth there, right? Well, we'll stick it closer this way. As you know, that the universe is expanding all around us. So we're somewhere in the middle. Maybe not exactly in the middle, but somewhere in the middle. Which maybe is something unique to planet Earth, that our solar system is in a galaxy that's very close to the center of our universe. And we know at the center of the universe is some sort of black hole as well, or what they class as a black hole. But if this is a sphere spinning around, and we know there's cores in the middle of our planet as well as in the sun, because it's spinning around, it makes sense that there'd be some sort of vortex that runs down the middle of the universe here, as well as through spiral galaxies. So that's another thing, right? You got to draw a galaxy as well. Everything that spins must create a central vortex, would make sense, right? Energy differences. It's complicated. So yeah, universe could be a disk in this case. And we're on the outside of it. It's not to scale or anything, it's just to explain it. So this is like an extension to my theory that if you've got a spaceship that can generate a fifth dimensional, what you would call it, to Einstein-Rosen bridge, even though the fifth dimension in their theory is actually the curvature of space. In the sense, this is again, it's not black and white, right? When you create something like this, which is a wormhole between two locations, you are bending space. So it's not totally wrong, the fifth dimension being space, curvature of space. And that's why I always say it's not black and white, but somewhere in the middle. Einstein's not 100% right, nor was Tesla, and so on. It's a combination of ideas. Eventually, we might be able to generate one of these and prove some craziness in our universe. And maybe what we think is sending a robot through to our universe, another part of the universe, it might actually come out in this other universe, which looks very similar to our universe, which will make it a bit more complicated and confusing, right? And then you realise it's not our own universe, it's actually gone to a multi-universe. And when you jump back into your own universe. But we've got to remember we're moving through space three-dimensionally as well. So how would you track that? So when you create that connection point, it's going to put stress under it, and it's eventually going to break. So it can only last for maybe a few seconds. You've got a few seconds to get through before the energy is the space around it is bent. Can't be bent anymore, and it just sort of breaks down. I think this could be turned into some great sci-fi movie. Actually, it could be made into a TV series where they discover how to do it and travel between the multi-universes, or try to find their way back, right? Because time they've gone over to here, they may have severed the connection, and already Earth is travelling at 500,000 miles per hour on the outer limits of the spiral arm, so it's already changed quite a long distance when they made a connection point, and plus the universe is probably spinning as well. So yeah, we don't know that though, because we're probably spinning in what do you call it, synchronization. So to us it looks stationary. But anyway, that was just my edited theories here. And I don't think everyone's going to agree with me, but see how you go. You're an expert on unified field theory. Is anybody? And translocation to fold space towards the event horizon to get your density. Yeah, it's all magic, isn't it? No, I got my information from aliens. Probably the same way Tesla did. So, if you don't agree with me, then you can get on your bike, basically. Not into these modern day physics that think they know it all. They think the Big Bang's correct, which it clearly isn't. Okay, so let's just move on. Like I said, it's not black and white, and there is some things that sort of match up. So, even though they might be able to do experiments on this and actually prove a wormhole is created, they'll say it proves Einstein's correct, but actually it doesn't. It just proves all the other theories too, that space can be folded into a wormhole. So what else we got here? So this is a research episode where we're looking for answers, not knowing the answers. So again, they're saying the fourth dimension here is time, where your hand is moving back and forth, back and forth. I say cobblers to that. And the fourth dimension is the field that binds the universe. And of course, there's no aliens coming from the fourth dimension. In this respect, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When you got Valet and all those other guys claiming they come from dimensions, or what they call it now, they've got some other meta dimensions. I don't know, they've got all sorts of new names for it now, haven't they? What's this one here? Fourth. Okay, this is all to do with space-time again. Fourth dimension being time, fifth dimension being curvature of space. So it's all pretty much the same. Now we've got fifth dimension here, which looks even more stupid. So yeah, all these theorists and string theory, I think they throw string theory into it now as well. What the hell is that meant to be? Travel guide to the fourth dimension. Kind of looks like a black hole where it sucks it down and pops it back out in the middle. What's these ones here? If I can get to zoom in on it. Now they're trying to represent it in maths now. Visualization of the fourth dimension. But that's the whole problem, you can't visualize it. If we could visualize it, we know it exists. I suppose there's probably ways you could run some experiments and prove the existence. How, I don't know. Laser beams being bent. Would that prove it? Probably not. A laser beam stopping mid-air. Could that be a possibility? That means it's passing through even to another multi-universe or another dimension. But how would that happen? That would be like a saber. Star Wars saber, where it sort of cuts off. Light keeps travelling, doesn't it? Until all the energy is absorbed into atoms. So, I suppose we better look at what the fifth dimension is. So you can see straight away my problem with the fourth dimension. When people talk about aliens and creatures popping out from the fourth dimension. So, let's go back. Okay, into the fifth dimension we go. Where's the fifth dimension and where did it come from? Okay, this will be talking about Einstein again. And we'll see how well it goes. It's got a bit of reading there though.
Kick a cube across the floor. Hard. In the few seconds it's in motion for, you're seeing 4 dimensions in play. The first 3 are height, width, and depth. You can see these on the cube itself. You don't even need to kick it to get a feel for them. The last one is time, and you see this one over the progression of its movement. This dimension is time. Although we can't really see time itself, the progression of distance is probably the closest you'll get, and it does make sense in this simulation. That's 4 dimensions, but most of the time, especially when discussing the properties of spacetime, there's an additional 5th dimension added in too. This is considered to be a microdimension, rather than one of the full-fledged ones you can see by kicking a cube across the floor. Even with the 4 pre-discussed dimensions, these are already what we consider to be the fabric of spacetime. An example of a 4-dimensional graph, which represents the 3 physical dimensions as well as time. Instead, the 5th dimension came around when physicists were trying to connect all parts of the universe in a way that made sense, or rather, they wanted to try and connect all the fundamental forces known.
Or they wanted to try and stick to the model of the universe still without by adding new things into it. And they don't accept it as wrong.
Known in the universe in a way that would make sense. This became known as the Kaluza-Klein theory, which has the ultimate goal of connecting gravity and electromagnetic force into a 5th dimension. The mathematical stance of the 5th dimension. Later on, these calculations were found to be slightly inaccurate, but they provided basis for a later mathematical claim which surrounds the 5th microdimension. The first calculations, done in the Kaluza-Klein theory, involved rolling the 5th dimension into a dense loop, which would have been about 10 to the negative 33 centimeters big. From this point, Oscar Klein figured that light was something that occurred more in the 5th dimension, and what we saw of it was a more diluted version. Think of it like when you swim underwater in a pool, and there are ripples on the still surface. You'd perceive the ripples as shadows, rather than the ripples they actually were. This is how Klein thought of light, having the majority of it occur in the 5th dimension. It was in this way he was able to draw up a connection between the 2 main forces of gravity and electromagnetism, which otherwise seem indirectly related in our perceivable universe. Later, this whole idea phased into the idea of superstring theory and supergravity, which later evolved into M theory. Ultimately, the Kaluza-Klein theory has become more of a gauge theory, meaning it fits into a certain type of field theory in which the Lagrangian doesn't change under local transformations. An example of how this fifth dimension might be represented. When we actually look at what suggestion to a fifth dimension there is, it isn't a lot. The fifth dimension would be incredibly difficult to see, at any rate, because we've already established that it's one that isn't perceivable to us. Just like swimming underwater, you don't see the ripples. Same here, you won't be able to see the fifth dimension, because it's above you, on a different plane. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to give up all hope. Rather, it's time to check out the evidence that's already been acquired, mostly by the Large Hadron Collider, one of the largest particle colliders in the world. Knowledge we've got suggesting the fifth dimension.
So, I suppose the spheres are the universe, or objects in the universe, and the ripples here is what they're saying is the fifth dimension. Ripples in fabric of space. So it's just another theory, right? But again, to me, that is the fourth dimension, not the fifth dimension. And it would be like that. It would be like we're inside this liquid, which we call dark matter. So the fourth dimension would be dark matter, in my theory. And the fifth dimension would be connecting that layer to another layer. Because it doesn't make any other sense otherwise. Now they're talking about 11 dimensions with string theory and all that nonsense. They're just more theories. Keeps some people employed anyway.
Dimension. The most valuable thing to note here is that we're still suggesting a fifth dimension. While it's pretty well accepted in the physics and mathematical communities due to the amount of sense it makes when talking through equations, we still can't really observe and fully confirm its existence. However,
actually, they're using maths as proof rather than as a tool. They're saying, oh, because we can prove it in maths, it must exist. That's not the case. Hey Dan, how's it going? Time is to go back to school. Yeah, well, makes you wonder some of these TV scientists how they got there. But this is outside the box thinking, all this stuff, right? This is theories built on theories built on theories. And really, it's what is that thing that we got now, the technology to take ETs home, and the guy said that equations were wrong. Well, exactly. If space-time is wrong, then our equations are wrong. So, by that statement alone, does that guy know something? Did the aliens tell them where they went wrong?
However, with the help from the Large Hadron Collider, there's been more suggestion to its prominence in the universe. A look into electric gravity, a theory which suggests the combination of these two big fundamentals. Here, there's the idea that collisions of subatomic particles result in the production of additional particles, one of which could be the theoretical graviton. In this scenario, the graviton leaves the fourth dimension and leaks into a fifth-dimensional bulk. Through this, there's more of an explanation which comes...
So that sounds like yet another theory, electric universe, I guess that's from. Electric Universe do seem to be trying to do experiments to prove their stuff, though, and they have brought up composing conclusions on that counteracts space-time. One of it is gravity lensing, where they said that the space is not empty and it's actually got gases, and more so around masses of supernovas and galaxies and stars. So if you trying to say that the beaten light is a result of space-time, they say it's not true because the gases cause refraction and bend light, you see, like going through a crystal, which makes perfect sense. So when you got two science perspectives that have the same conclusion, how do you prove which one's correct? Well, the only way to prove that would be to go into space and actually document. I suppose we're heading that way slowly, but we're sort of like infants still. We need to go out to space and collect more data, and I think the space probe one, they launched a sun probe not long ago. Maybe that will tell us the density at different closeness to the sun of particles that we're not seeing. We already know that the SOHO gets corrupted quite often with bursts of radiation. Creates those little streaks that the fraud channels put up as UFOs. You've seen them with the crosses and the spheres with the crosses through, without even knowing how the technology and how it works and how it's affected. Theory. Are you talking about theory? Yes, this can only be theory. We're talking about the fourth dimension, as seen through main scientists and what I think it is, and how it relates to the Navy pilot sighting. So, but eventually we'll get back to doing the maps, which could be part of how the wormholes are created, the portals between worlds, well, maybe other parts of the universe to ours, through the so-called invisible dimension, which you can call the ether, or you could call it space-time, or whatever. Like I said, it's not black and white, it's grey. Intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles, dependent on thing to be explained. Well, obviously their theories are based on other theories, right? So if you get the base theory being wrong, then that means all the theories that lead from it are wrong as well. And that's basically what they said with the ET, and we can take ET home, right? That if our fundamental understanding was wrong, so we're never ever going to be right. You know what I mean? So if you believe Einstein to be 100% right and it turns out to be wrong, then you're going to be set back so many hundreds of years, right? But I think when they do quantum experiments, they're sort of basing it on ideas based on Einstein's theory and all that. But they may actually be discovering things which has nothing to do with it, right? It's just like satellites losing time or gaining time as they orbit Earth. To what they do if they're on the ground and nuclear clocks. But they tend to ignore things, scientists. For starters, we know that the magnetic field around Earth changes as you go higher up. So, of course, the atomic clocks are going to be affected at quantum levels, right? The oscillations and all that. So they totally ignore that and say, oh, that just proves that the space is bent. It doesn't. It proves that there's something more going on. It's something fast moving through magnetic field. You've got to remember, everything around us is electromagnetic energy. In fact, I believe that we are electromagnetic energy in the form of dense energy inside atoms. But that brings me into other theories as well, how reincarnation could work, where you have people that seem to recall past lives, and when they do investigations, it turns out the person did exist and all that sort of business. Is that atoms actually store information. So if you imagine 1,000 years ago that a human that built the pyramids drank some water, eventually that water is going to be released from him in form of urine or whatever, or it might be become part of his brain chemistry and lives from forever. And in that time, it's near the brain in a certain arrangement where information is actually stored in the atom, because we don't know how our brains work. It's complicated. So, could 1,000 years from now, the atom that was in my brain pass through to someone else that's having a baby, in the sense of water or carbon or whatever, and somehow they tap into it because it ends up in the brain. They start getting memories of what's stored into the atom. That's how I can visualize reincarnation actually being a valid science thing. There may be some real science behind it. But at this level of technology, we can't prove that, because we can't go down to those levels. And maybe we'll never be able to. So often, I look at my dog. When he's sick, he knows to eat certain grass, certain young grass, and he's better, And he'll line up at the door, especially to go at night when he feels sick and he wants to go and eat some grass. Now, he wasn't taught that by any other dog, not by his parents or anything. So where did he get that knowledge from? It's like it's passed down in the DNA itself, which would be atoms, which comes from the mother, which would be internal knowledge. You see where I'm going with that? But anyway, it's probably way above everybody's thinking. Humans employed the concept of time to measure the gap. Time only goes forward, though. Yep. It's just, it's not a real thing. It's just a perception. Metaphysical concepts, yes. Don't you start the meta propulsion. All these words I like now. Meta and quantum field theory. It all sounds quantum bubble, quantum universe. So I'll call mine quantum multiverse. Actually, mine's more of a bubble, I suppose. Quantum bubble multiverse. There you go. And reincarnation would be a subset. That would have to be that. I don't know what you'd use a name for that one. Information stored within energy, and atoms being dense energy. And of course, the atoms exist because of the fourth dimension, which is the ether, which I'm calling dark matter. And the dark matter releases energy into the atoms constantly, and the flow of that energy is gravity. So here they're saying about electric charge being gravity, right? Anyway, we'll carry on.
Comes from why gravity is so weak. Although we consider gravity to be relatively strong, it's considered to be weak due to how easily it can be overcome in certain circumstances, especially by other forces. Think about building an electromagnet. With the electromagnet, you can lift objects. This ultimately is pulling them from the gravity, making the electromagnet a stronger force. By suggesting a five-dimensional space, having gravity be weaker force makes slightly more sense, which is why it's widely considered to be a theoretical construct, especially when discussing physics. Not only that, but it's said to be a microdimension due to the fact that it doesn't have full access to us, since we aren't able to see it, even though we interact with it.
See, that thing with micro dimensions sounds to me like they're trying to fiddle it. The scientists are trying to fiddle it to make it fit the scheme of things, their agenda. So what's going on inside here? Pink elephants. If everything's energy, then the metaphysical concepts are real. Is the reality they exist in. As I said, it's not black and white, it's somewhere in the middle. So even though quantum theory is way out there, they may discover things which is somewhere in that grey region. Pink elephants. So I've seen pink pigs, and that's been on what's that guy's name? Bingham. Where he's saying it was critters in the sky, which was pink elephant or pink pig, I think. Was it a pig? I think it was a pig. Well, that's one of these questions that you get asked on computer science jobs. How do you put an elephant into the freezer? Now, this is a serious question they do ask on interviews. They ask you crazy stuff like this to see where your thinking is. So what's your answer there? How do you fit an elephant into a freezer? And then they'll see if you ask more questions, more details and all that sort of stuff. They want to see how deep you think and if you overthink things. Could just propagation of thought be reality? Are you talking about holographic universe now, which is saying it's computer generated? There was some reasons why I didn't think it was computer generated. What was it now? Some stuff I come across which had to prove that we had to be real opposed to imaginary. But I can't think of what it was now. But yeah, you didn't answer my question. How do you fit an elephant in a freezer? I know the answer they want in the job interview. But yeah, you guys are thinking how to answer that one. I'll let you ponder it. I'll tell you the answer. What's the other one they ask? Of course, you've seen the Microsoft question they give, how to get people across the bridge the fastest. That's another one. And you got 5 minutes to work it out. And the people given pen and paper or a computer and calculators and all that, and they can pick whatever they want and to suss it out. But they only got a certain time to figure it out. And one guy actually wrote a computer program to work it out in that 5 minutes. So yeah, I think he got it correct too, and he just managed to get it within time. The fastest person was with mental thoughts and pen and paper, and did it in 3.5 minutes, I think it was. But yeah. So open the door, put it in, and close the door. So you googled it, didn't you? You cheated. You probably found it online, didn't you? Okay, because that's normally what clever people would do. But unfortunately, they didn't have the internet. You don't have the internet in an interview. That is the answer. That's the answer they want. They want you not to overthink it, ask what size the fridge it is, and how cold it is, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Let's see what comes up anyway. But elephant. Where's everybody today? Friday night, they're all at the pub or something. You shouldn't be though. It's locked down in New Zealand. We can't go anywhere. Freeze. I don't know if that one is actually. Someone will already have it up on the web. There you go. Straight away, someone's put it up there. 2018. And that's what Dead Set did, wasn't it? Heard it before. Okay. Let's see what else I got here. Not physically possible. Well, it depends on the size of the freezer, because press the one wrong, you open the fridge door, put the elephant inside, close the door. How do you put a giraffe in a refrigerator? Exactly the same way, isn't it? Open the fridge, put the door, giraffe inside, and close the door. Wrong, you open the fridge door. Yeah! Yeah, you got one more extra step, isn't it? Take the elephant out. Oh yeah, I suppose depends again on size. But again, you'd be overthinking it. How do you put a giraffe in a refrigerator? Okay, we got on that. A whole jungle was invited to the Lions party, but someone didn't show up. Who was it? The whole jungle was invited. So these are the sort of mind quizzes that employees like. Some employees like, anyway. I don't know. The giraffe, because it's in the freezer. That's probably correct. The old granny wants to cross a crocodile-infested river, but somehow she crossed the river safely. How? I'm not too sure about that. She could cross it safely because there was no crocodiles. So how would you not overthink that one? But you said the river was crocodile infested. Okay. If it's infested, then you could just run across the backs of them, couldn't you? Because there would be no movement in the river. Yeah, that's true, but you didn't think about the fact that the crocodiles went to the Lions party. Oh, yeah. Even though the granny was safe swimming across the river, she died. How? The crocodiles ate her. Person, nope. The brick hit her in the head. Brick? Crazy stuff. Anyway, that was a bit of fun. So you never know what you're going to get tossed up on in a job interview. Okay. If you talk to a tree and it vibrates or sound, intercept its quarks, do they remember my words? And they reckon it does with stone. They reckon that some paranormal locations can play back stuff. And just the right electrostatic field over certain rocks, it can actually play back sounds from the past, like a gramophone record. Now that kind of makes sense, but especially if some rocks have some magnetic particles in, a bit like meteorites. Again, it's that stupidness. If the tree falls over in a forest and you don't hear it, how do you know it fell over? Maybe you don't see the top of it anymore from where you are. Anyway, where did we get to on this?
Think of it in reference to what we know as colonists in colonial America, as compared to the rule of Great Britain. In this case, colonial America represents the 4 dimensions which are interacted with. However, England, or GB, didn't really have the same nature of being present in colonial America, and although they interacted with it somewhat, it wasn't there for much of the time. Lastly, it makes way for other theories that do need more than one dimension, and that need this seamless tie between the fundamental forces. Later on, the Einstein-Maxwell theory worked with the 5th dimension, trying to get it so that it would be derived from a distance. Initially, the idea had been to try and fit electromagnetism into its own slot in what we know as spacetime, but that didn't quite work. Up to this point, the suggestion and usage of the 5th dimension is the best we're going to get. What this all means, a little TLDR. The 5th dimension is a microdimension, which is accepted in physics and mathematics. It's here to have a nice and seamless tie between gravity and electromagnetism, or the main fundamental forces, which seem unrelated in the regular 4-dimensional spacetime. As of now, we can't see the 5th dimension, but rather, it interacts on a higher plane than we do. It's because of this that we can't really study nor fully prove its existence. Despite this, there are theories which have been run through the Large Hadron Collider, which have helped support and suggest the idea of having gravitons transition from the 4 dimensions to the 5th one. Still, the 5th microdimension stays, because it's able to help along and support other physics theories, which make more sense when you take a look at how the dimensions themselves are constructed. Thank you so much for reading this, and I hope you had fun getting a chance to.
So, yeah, on to the next bit. We'll carry on with the maps soon. Don't want to overload people's brains too much from this stuff, but yeah, it gets people thinking, outside the box, and it's interesting stuff. Science and maths, and how much people can understand it. Most people just accept that there's a few people in the world know what they're talking about and just accept it straight off without having to understand it themselves, right? But here I like to keep things to lay terms, where you can sort of draw it and visualize it, rather than talk about improving equations like these guys love to, string theory guys. Could life exist in 2D? So let's have a look at this one. This one's quite interesting, because I was talking about why Jack Vallée interdimensional beings is wrong, because there's no volume, such to speak, in dimensions. You can bend the space, and the fifth one, the fourth one, if it's time, that certainly can't exist in time, unless it's suspended, squashed 3D. I don't know. But anyway, let's see what they're going to say here.
Life could exist in a 2D universe, according to physics, anyway. Physicists and philosophers have long claimed that life can form only in a universe like ours, with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. That thinking may need to be revised. Emerging technology from the AR-14. June 20th, 2019. Colorful view of universe captured by Space Telescope NASA. Sign up for the download. Your daily dose of what's up in emerging technology. Sign up. Stay updated on MIT technology review initiatives and events?
No.
Yes. No. Why do we live in a universe with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time? 3 plus 1 dimensions, as cosmologists would say.
Because we're born into
Why not
it.
some other combination, such as 4 dimensions of space or 2 dimensions of time? In recent decades, physicists have explored this question by investigating the properties of other universes to see whether complex life could exist in them. Their conclusion is that it could not exist in a universe with 4 dimensions, nor in one with more than 1 dimension of time. So the fact that humanity finds itself in a 3 plus 1 dimensional universe is inevitable, they say. This is known as the anthropic argument, the idea that the universe must have the properties necessary for observers to survive. But what of simpler universes, such as one with 2 plus 1 dimensions? Physicists have assumed that 2 spatial dimensions could not allow the kind of complexity to support life. They also think gravity would not work in 2 dimensions, so solar system-type objects could not form. But is that really true? Today, we find out thanks to the work of James Scargill at the University of California, Davis, who has shown against all expectations that a 2 plus 1 dimensional universe could support both gravity and the kind of complexity that life requires. The work undermines the anthropic argument for cosmologists and philosophers, who will need to find another reason why the universe takes the form it does.
It's a fight.
First, some background.
There's going to be some fighting on this one. Okay.
Background. One of the great scientific puzzles is why the laws of physics seem fine-tuned for life. For example, the numerical value of the fine structure constant seems arbitrary, about 1/137, and yet various physicists have pointed out that if it were even slightly different, atoms and more complex objects could not form. In such a universe, life would be impossible. The anthropic approach is to argue that if the fine structure constant took any other value, there could be no observers to measure it. That's why it has the value we measure. In the 1990s, Max Tegmark, a physicist now at MIT, developed a similar argument for the number of dimensions in the universe. He argued that if there was more than 1 temporal dimension, the laws of physics would lack the properties necessary for observers to make predictions. That certainly seems to preclude the existence of physicists and perhaps also life itself. Then there are the properties of universes with 4 spatial dimensions. In this kind of cosmos,
you notice they're talking universes here, though, which is quite interesting. Reductionism as opposed to holisticisms. I didn't spell well. I'll give up. No, I'd have to look into those. I've heard of them, but yeah, all these different theories out there. Right? Here's one here talking about whether gravity can exist in 2Ds. That's like saying if you're looking at another planet and you only see it two-dimensionally, does it have gravity? I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but they're looking at it mathematically, right? Obviously the planet's got gravity, because that's what holds it all together. All the atoms get attracted. And again, I say it's because it's the flux of energy being absorbed, which attracts the atoms to each other, because they can draw off each other the energy as well, or draw it in faster, right? The bigger mass draws it in faster. That's why the moon gravity is less, because it's smaller mass, right? Sort of fits, right? Less atoms, less energy being sucked in from the fourth dimension, the ether, which is what Tesla said. This is why Tesla said the sun absorbs more energy than it releases. But yeah, where did he get that thinking from? Obviously it's in one of his notebooks that went missing. And it's those books that we need to find out what he discovered. That's the difference between Einstein and Tesla too, even though they were great mates. Tesla was a guy that experimented and found things out by accident, which generally happens. Well, Einstein is more pencil and paper and thinker. Abstract thinking, right? Well, Tesla was more do it. But the combination of those two minds, though, I think they would have had... the world would have been different if they had their chance, right? I think Tesla had found out something, and his tower with the glass dome was something totally different to what people are saying it is. And it was to do with this dark energy and dark matter idea. But anyway, ahead of the time, but maybe they discovered it. With high voltage, you can interrupt electromagnetic energy and discover these things, right? You know, man, what is now legal when I live here in Washington? Alright. That's your problem, America. Too much weed. Yeah, so carry on.
Cosmos, Newton's laws of motion would be highly sensitive to tiny perturbations. One consequence is that stable orbits could not form, so there would be no solar systems or other similar structures. In a space with more than 3 dimensions, there can be no traditional atoms, and perhaps no stable structures, said Tegmark. So the conditions for life seem unlikely in universes with more dimensions than ours.
Alright, so he's still relating it to time, obviously, isn't he? But yeah, it makes sense that the fourth dimension, being dark matter, isn't actually made of atoms that are not like dense energy. It's actually part of the recycled energy system of the universe. So it sort of goes back in and out, because energy is not created, it's actually transformed from one one form to another. Just try and look for the word.
Ours. But the argument is less secure universes with fewer dimensions. One argument is that general relativity cannot work in 2 dimensions, so there could be no gravity. But James Scargill has other views. In today's paper, he shows that a much simpler, purely scalar, gravitational field would be possible in 2 dimensions, and this would allow stable orbits and a reasonable cosmology. But his more impressive result is to show how complexity could emerge in 2 + 1 dimensions. Scargill approaches this problem from the point of view of neural networks. He points out that the complexity of biological neural networks can be characterized by various special properties that any 2D system must be able to reproduce. These include the small world property, a pattern of connectivity that makes it possible to traverse a complex network in a small number of steps. Another property of brain networks is that they operate in a regime that is delicately balanced between the transition from high to low activity, a regime known as criticality. And this also seems possible only in networks that have a modular hierarchy in which small subnetworks combine to form larger networks. So the question Scargill asks is whether there are any 2D networks that have all these features: small world properties, modular hierarchy, and critical behavior. At first, this seems unlikely because in 2D graphs, nodes are connected via edges that cross each other. Nevertheless, Scargill shows that 2D networks can indeed be built in a modular fashion, and that these graphs have certain small world properties. He also shows that these networks can operate at the transition point between two types of behavior, and therefore demonstrate criticality. They are approximately small world, they have a hierarchical and modular construction, and they show evidence of critical behavior for certain stochastic processes, he says. That's a fascinating result. It suggests 2D networks can support surprisingly complex behavior. Of course, it does not amount to proof that a 2+1 universe could support life. Indeed, Scargill points out that more work is needed to discover whether the types of 2D networks he describes are capable of the complex behavior observed in living things. More work is needed to compare the graphs presented here with real-life neural networks, he says. But it gives the lie to claims that 2+1 universe could not support life. The cosmologists and philosophers who promote the anthropic principle will need to think a little harder. Ref. arcs4.org/abs/19.
So. Not sure if that was particularly helpful. So life can only exist in 3D, but if it passes through a wormhole, which is 4/5th dimension. Well, 5th dimension if you're talking about space-time. Does life cease to exist? That wouldn't make any sense. So what is life anyway? See, that's another another question. What is the meaning of life? Self-awareness? I guess if you pass through the 5th dimension, electron flow and self-awareness probably would cease for milliseconds and nanoseconds or microseconds. So in a sense that life doesn't exist as it's passing through and goes back into another 3D world, another multiverse. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting to some. So how does that fit in with the pilots? Where's the picture gone? Did I close it down? No, here it is. So could these pilots talk about a sphere, a cube inside a sphere? To me, that could be that they're not actually in our world. That they're seeing it, but they're actually in the 5th dimension. Passing between worlds. So there would be no collision, right? And you could pass through walls and 3D stuff. They could pass through the planes. Basically, that's what the could it be like what that was the Foo Fighters? Could the Foo Fighters have been these bright spheres, right? And there was reports that they were passing through cockpits of planes, or the tail section. and enter inside where the pilots were. I think there were some reports like that. I'm not sure if I've got anything handy. But yeah, this is why I cover these bits the way I do, so I can refer back to it in a real world sense of things. Like, could it have been really there rather than being some sort of EMF hack? You know, there might be. So let's say there's a black ops where they're able to project microwave energy that can affect the pilot's brain to make them see anything they wanted to, right? That could be a powerful weapon where you could just have all these troops attacking you, and then suddenly you could wipe their brains. Well, you could make them visualize that they're on fire or whatever. That would be powerful. So were the pilots seeing something maybe that's not in our dimension but sort of halfway between, passing through, or was it some projected EMF trick from a drone which they didn't see because it's cloaked, and that was telling to see something else? We talked about that in previous live show. Was it the last one we talked about? We can actually project, and let's just type it in, images into mind. Projecting images directly into the brain. 2017. So yeah, this is where my out of box thinking comes in. So what are we looking at here? Bypassing the eyes. Replacing the damaged eye with a window directly into the brain. See, that's something else that could be done, you see. If your eyes got totally destroyed, like in some accident, acid or fire, that maybe now they can put a sensor, draw a hole and put a sensor in a key location on your brain surface and make you see images. $21 million DARPA award. Doesn't sound like much money, really, considering they spent how many trillion on Middle East. So yeah, could you imagine? I know the military do get a really big budget in America, don't they? So where would they be? You know, 21 million is nothing to DARPA when they get like 500 billion, isn't it? In budget for defense. So what's this one? They got a video here. Do I bother plant brain activity? No. What's this one? How to read, write the brain. Communicate with the brain. The team will first insert a gene into a neuron that makes fluorescent proteins. Okay. Cell fires. Second gene that makes the light activated protein which stimulates neurons in the response. That kind of reminds me of the bioluminescent creatures in the sea, eh? So what they're doing next was that. Holographic projection. So these are some of the images I've managed to map from the brain while people are looking at it. So it's similar to the one that we looked at before, I think. YouTube. Okay, let's see how good it looks. Well, you can see it's getting there. If that's what's currently available commercially or public, could the Defense Department be way ahead there? Seems to me if you're going to project something, a sphere and a cube would make more sense, wouldn't it? Would be the easiest shapes to reproduce. Rather than using holograms, you could be influencing the brains, so they actually think they're seeing it. And look, it does it in real time too. Moving. And they're reading text. All bets are off. Is that what they're reading though? Doesn't even look like that though. But you can see it's writing of some kind, can't you? Why is it not playing? Okay. Well, that looks very similar. Black shirt. White hair. How do they get the white hair from that? Elephant. Oh yeah, you can see elephant. Look. That one's pretty good. You can see the elephant head in the air. That's pretty amazing. So they're doing that now. That was 3 years ago. Bird flying. African woman. I suppose she kind of looks like African there. Except for the nose is... I don't know, the nose would be the right width, wouldn't it, for African? Quite a wide nose. Although that looks like a man. Is that a man or a woman? It's a bit hard to tell sometimes. Because they have short hair. It makes it a bit trickier. Because you can't see the rest of the body. A plane. A woman. You can see it's a face. That's still pretty amazing if they're reading that straight from the brain waves. So that's reading it back. But we want it for transmitting images. Don't we? That was the other way around. I think it was the other way around. Let's have a look. Light only penetrates the first 100 microns. Brain responsible for high order mental functions. Movie reconstruction from human brain activity. So it's reconstruction of what's in the brain. So that's mind reading. That's a next step up. But we want one where they're seeing it. So how would you do the experiment? You'd have to get them to close their eyes, I guess, and project an image, and then they got to sort of draw it afterwards, I suppose. Let's see. Thought direction by neurons. Mind reading. Algorithm. I'm sure Google will be onto it. Scientists revealed a device that can project holograms into the brain. See, that's 2019. Again, were they using lasers and light for that? Or EMF? I better catch up with the side comments. Origami 2D into 3D. A cube in an iron force field. But they didn't say it was a force field. You see what I mean? I was trying to get the pilots to come on our show so I can ask him these questions, and he refused. He replied back and said I'd decline. So he's not going to help us with... so I gave him a load of questions. I said, can you tell us how big it was, how fast it was moving? Was the cube solid? Was it partially transparent? All these sort of questions. The speed, the size, whether he thought it was a force field, whether he thought it was an outer skin, and I got no reply. So yeah, makes it a bit hard for us here that we're actually looking into things seriously and trying to connect the dots with current theories of science and whatnot. Very hard. Near impossible because I haven't got all the information. So, have we got any experiments? I've got something here. Pay attention to this one. Bit scared to play too much because I could probably get hit with a copyright. And they could take it down then, or worse, they can limit who can see your video. So I did one on mind control years ago, and I never had so many copyright claims on it. They really didn't want it up. I had to edit it 3 or 4 times and re-upload it. I had to deface it and all that sort of stuff. I want to see them do an experiment with the beaming.
Trainers generally fall.
So was he blind or what?
These are people who seek attention through complaining. They rumination directly relays.
Still, where's the experiments? This is almost like remote viewing, isn't it?
Bias. Negative stimuli produce more neural activity than do
Yeah, not the best of examples. That's no good for us. Anyway, I wanted something that was quick and easy. How the brain processes images. It's not really what we're after. How the brain processes images again. How can we see images in our minds? Let's see what they say here. So yeah, I think this will have to be like a further investigation, part 3, part 4. The brain does not see, the mind interprets. Yeah. Do we even exist? So yeah. So we'll get on with the other stuff anyway. I spent long enough on that. It's interesting stuff though. Got to keep an eye on it. Obviously they're going to keep developing it into more and more things. But obviously they're going to use it for influence and mind control and military applications, aren't they? If you can scare the enemy that they're thinking they're seeing something they're not. Yeah. Guess Blue Beam is just useless, isn't it? This Project Blue Beam. Projecting something in the sky. Why bother when you can project it straight into the brains? So the idea of Project Blue Beam is really old hack now. I know they've got microwave weapons and stuff, haven't they? Microwave. But they're not going to tell you about implanting images into your brain or hearing things. Imagine if you heard mad screaming in your head all the time. That would drive you nuts. Direct energy weapon. Now we're seeing that. So if someone shoots a beam of microwave at you, you're going to feel it. It's going to start cooking your flesh. Maybe they should try that in the Middle East at the moment. Although I shouldn't say anything, probably get told off by Google. You could stream down microwave onto the Talibans, and have them all dropped down, passed out. Microwave weapons that could cause Havana syndrome. What's that? Probably saying it wrong. Let's have a look at that one. That sounds almost Middle Eastern, that name. Search for the word. Set of medical signs and symptoms reported by United States Canadian Embassy staff in Cuba. Alright. Is that what it comes from? 2016. Now, I've heard targeted individuals talk about this, where they claim that they might be informants for something, and they have people that move in next door and they start getting sick, and they believe that they got these microwave beams going through the walls all the time, affecting their mind state. So they put up tin foil and sheets of metal to make a Faraday cage. I think you'd have to put up microwave mesh, right? Like you get in the microwave door to block that out. Different size holes, right? Because of the wavelength of how the wave is a sine wave, it moves through air like that. So you have the size holes where it goes through. So it's talking about that syndrome. I was looking for something a bit more general. I suppose it's top secret though, right? They're not going to tell you they've got something worked out. Scientific attacks are implausible. Why would that be? 2021, let's have a look at that one. I don't see how it can be implausible. There's little evidence for unknown weapon behind the Havana syndrome. Okay, so it's the debunker of that one. Doesn't mean it's not possible, does it? And of course, if it's like a backpack that you cart around, you can be in next door to the people that you're making sick, and then gone the next day, and just carry it out in a suitcase, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think debunkers are debunkers, right? Sometimes they just don't see the possibilities because they want it to be debunked. Well, you need to be in the middle, really. You need to be a truther. You can see both sides of the argument. Microwave gun. Microwave cannon. Let's have a look at those ones. So, why couldn't UFOs use that? Kind of makes sense, wouldn't it? Should a concentrated beam at a jet, you'd knock out the electronics probably. Or knock out the pilots at least. Anyway. So let's have a look at these maps again. Just to wrap up. So yeah, the UFO, this cube one is the strangest one we've heard so far. So two possibilities there, that it's some sort of drone with some sort of mind influence, and so they're seeing something that's not really there. Or two, it's got some sort of UFO that has some sort of cloaking technology or holographic projection around itself. Because if it's a drone in the center here, it could shoot up a laser beam that shoots all around and sort of uses like some small particles like steam or something like that to project into. It's going to hide it inside that whatever the laser beams are creating. That's the thing we need to ask the pilot. Was it green? Could it have been a green laser, blue laser, colored laser? Was it full spectrum? Was it transparent? What's the third one? Well, it could be a craft that's sort of passing through the portal. Creates a portal, which would be the sphere. And it's yet to pop out, and it's just generating it as it's going through, and then it pops out, or it suddenly goes back into the other universe or whatever. Well, universes, as I was saying before. What's the other possibilities there? Didn't two jet pilots see it in the middle? So can only be those three things, I think. Makes sense that it probably would have gone down towards the water and disappeared into the water, though. Anyway, let's get to that map and do North America. Before I do that, I'll just check the comments again. Quantum packets of light. premise of the hypothesis that a holographic projection could create mass still needs to be energetic properties. And collisions, yeah, it's got to bounce off another substance around it. But steam, you could do it with steam. But as you saw, they did it with plastic beads, where the lasers would hold the plastic beads and it bounced the light off it. They could hold it anywhere they wanted to, move it around. Because he said the cube touched inside the sphere, so the sphere was right close to the skin of the cube, right, in the interview. And that's what you'd get if you had a laser system going around the outside, creating this optical illusion, when it's actually not a square or a sphere, but it's actually, that's part of the generation of the hologram around the drone. But it certainly would confuse people, wouldn't it? The pilots, anyway. So you start off with something simple, wouldn't you? For holographic, you do an experiment. This will be like the first experiment. Let's start off with something simple. Then let's create a more complex shape next time. Let's make it look like a F-18 American plane next time. And of course, then they'll see another American plane and think it's one of theirs. Have you heard of hard coffee? We're talking about coffee now. Pasnell makes it, and I love the flavour. Yeah, making me want a cup of coffee now. And get a bit thirsty with all the talking. Now you back to the pink elephants again. You and your elephant. I've actually seen the dancing lights, but not the pyramids. Dancing light. Scott Smith, what's your opinion on the thoughts of the pyramids? Yeah, like I said last time, or the last lives, or whatever it was, I did a thing about the pyramids being, they did a lot of experiments. A lot of pyramids actually went wrong and they collapsed, and they're little tiny smaller pyramids, but the big ones seem to be a lot of energy put into them to be just burial locations, really. How safe would a burial chamber be in plain sight as well? Normally they would hide it in the Valley of the Kings, right? They would bury it into the ground, hidden somewhere in the ground. So they probably marched off, right, and dug a new tunnel in a different direction so it wouldn't get robbed. So they don't want people watching when they're burying people. And just bury it with sand somewhere, sand was everywhere. Well, why build a pyramid? Well, I think they're machines, that's what I think, and they needed to be massive to collect enough hydrogen gas to create the airships that I was talking about. The airships that would use the air currents to circumnavigate around the middle of the planet. And if you have a look at all the main locations for the pyramids, it's here. I had it here somewhere. This one here. No, not that one. I had it here before, I thought. Was it that one? No, that's the other one. Great Lake Triangles. Oh, here it is here. So these are all the main pyramids. So you can see they're in that sort of band. None in Australia, none in New Zealand, none South Africa. but we got down to mostly Middle America and some in top of South America here. And if you look at the prevailing air currents, they would travel this direction from Egypt or all across to the middle here. Makes sense that sometimes they would be off course and maybe get blown down slightly and then carry on this direction. Of course, Easter Island's over here too. They talked about seeing sky gods. Now we're in eagle heads. And now what culture do you know wears strange headdresses? Well, Egyptians. And of course they'd be with the golden painted blue headdresses. They certainly would look to them like gods from the sky. So yeah, in my episode I talk about that, and I show you some pictures, which looks very much like Egyptian boats as well. They talked about they come in these boats from the sky. So yeah, my theory was the pyramids themselves were actually machines to produce hydrogen gas, because it has water that was running underneath it. And it just takes a couple metals like zinc and copper, and you can start splitting water, but it's going to take a very long time just using the power of water itself running through the metal. It would actually create a charge and gradually break bonds between water itself. And the chambers in the pyramids would make sense. The lower chamber being the Queen's chamber would be oxygen, and the top chamber being the King's pyramid would be hydrogen. And you can see the vents go up to certain stars, and you got a vent that goes up from the Queen's chamber on one side, and a vent of hydrogen that goes up on the other side of the pyramid if you look at the diagrams. So who was the people that built it? I don't think it was modern day Egyptians. I think it was another race of smart humans. Maybe had figured out some science and they got killed off. Maybe through some sort of natural disaster or wars or virus, which is what we got at the moment in the world. The virus could quite easily wipe us out and humans would be back to square one. So let's say, Dan, if you're the only human left, scientist left, would you know how to make a microchip? I don't think so. So we'd be back to square one, right? Or would you be able to get the manuals out and actually read in a factory in Malaysia how to operate it and make a chip? Even that would be really complex. You see what I mean? So yeah. Why is there no proof of past humans? People would say, well, if there was a natural disaster, your atoms could be torn apart, in an instant, right, from a meteorite impact or whatever. Or it could be a virus where people started burning you, so you end up with being bits of carbon and no bone left. Maybe they ground it up after that and fed it to animals, so who knows. What do we got here? Yeah, answer. Google didn't like the answer there, Donna. Got to go now. I really enjoyed the show. See you next time. Okay. This is about to do the maps now. This should be a bit more interesting, I think. Egyptians documented everything. Then there's nothing about them. Where's the proof they documented everything? I think what they did is they passed it on between engineers. So each they would have had a group of engineers that knew how to build the pyramids, but they never wrote it down. And you would have to be like, it'd be like the Masons. You'd be showing directly how to do it and all that sort of stuff, and it would be passed on that way through apprenticeships. So if you got invaded, right, you got if you got this machine that's producing hydrogen and it allows you to do airships that flies across to South America, and you can see this, and then come around to Asia. They got pyramids there. It makes sense that there'd be some sort of knowledge passed between races of different people, and maybe some sort of trade route even. Maybe that's why they tried to reproduce the pyramids as like petrol stations, right? Top-up stations. But maybe it didn't work quite to plan, because they couldn't build the pyramids in such the same way as they did in Egypt. Because there was like stepped pyramids, right? They couldn't quite get the engineering right. They weren't perfect. They had plenty of water. They may have had gold, silver, but maybe they didn't have. They would have had copper, I guess. So copper's everywhere, but would they had zinc? Zinc is probably less common. I'd probably have to research that though. Maybe that was less common in Middle East here. I mean, Central America or South America. But yeah, it's an interesting theory anyway. And it sort of fits, because the Great Pyramids didn't have any great decorations on it, and they didn't have how-to plans built onto the wall. Kind of makes sense that inside would have been special coating on the walls to stop the gas leaking. And I think there was talk about some sort of material on the walls. Some recent new finds as well, like some sort of tar coating that sort of wore off, and they think there was they found some cubby holes that were filled in. What those were, I don't know. Maybe they had some pipes going into there, or some metal controls or some kind. So you'd have to be, with hydrogen, you'd have to be careful not to ignite it, right? Kind of makes sense too that they probably wouldn't have any candles or anything like that near it, because it would go up. But maybe some sort of disaster did happen. Because you remember the pyramids used to have a coating on the outside, so maybe there was sort of an explosion as it was filling up outside, and maybe it just took out all the coating on the pyramids in one instant. Anyway, I was going to do this map, so let's do this and wrap up soon. We'll start it. Like I said, this might be a part 3 yet and a part 4 yet of this particular series that I'm working on here. That was talking about universes and wormholes, stargates, 4th and 5th dimensions. So we want to look at this map here, but up the top here, more detail. Now these are all the impact craters that they know about, but I'm saying there's a few missing. As we found out, there's another one down here that was missing off the map, but it was only detected through what they call the glassy beads. What was it called now? The tektites that they found. New image. Resize. Anyway, I've been confirmed to go on a radio show. I won't say the name of it. But you might hear me on another podcast and radio talking about my channel and what I do. and that should come out sometime next week. Not next week, the week after, probably Monday or whatever. But middle next, next week I'll be doing an interview, hopefully. So you can see here, these are some of the big impacts from asteroids and meteorites. And you can see it's right over the Bermuda Triangle. And also the Great Lakes, where they've got the triangles up there. And also over quite a lot there in the middle there. Which is Kentucky, isn't it? About there. So let's get a map and overlay and see where the cities line up on that one, because that's quite interesting. Oh, did I close down the thing, did I? We need a normal map. Go back to there. Oh, well, they said there was a library called the Alexandra, wasn't it? That got burnt down in some sort of riot or war, and it was meant to have all the knowledge of the world in it. That there might have had how the pyramids were built and what the purpose of them were, and also may have had the other stuff, an airship. If an airship was made from an Egyptian boat and used some sort of flax linen for its balloon structure for capturing the hydrogen, coated in some sort of liquid like tar so it didn't leak the gas out between the atoms, which happens even with Mylar. Mylar balloons are quite porous, and the helium will slowly leak out through the pores of the skin, so that's why it deflates. It doesn't actually leak out where you tied it. It actually leaks through the material itself, believe it or not. And of course, weather balloons use helium. It doesn't have time to leak out through the material there, because it keeps expanding until it breaks the strain point and it rips in half. So we want a map of North America. Now, you've heard also about the Great Grand Canyon, Arizona. That is meant to be a hidden passage they found that was full of Egyptian artifacts. Kind of makes sense that the Egyptians somehow had airships, and the Nazca lines was for the locals to honour the Egyptians, so they could see it as they were coming across. In fact, it may have been like a runway, like they said. It could have been like using it for reference to where to go, where to land. So it kind of makes sense, and people are saying it's related to aliens coming down, but it might not be. It might be just these ancient people, which were the Egyptian pyramid makers. Might have been the people. Anything with high tech will always look like magic to other humans, right? Map North America, Alaska. Let's see what comes up anyway. And what's something that can overlay it? So we can see where the cities lie, but how dense can we get it? That one looks really detailed. And it'd probably be blurry. We want one that's really high definition, really. See, that looks small. Okay. It's quite big, isn't it? That could work, I suppose. How do we scale it down? Let's see, detailed. That must be the smaller map, is it? Okay, it's bigger than I thought. Maybe it's too much information on that. Nice map though, isn't it? Nice colour scheme there. Main roads. There's not too much crammed on. Let's go up the top here. Kansas, Nebraska. There was a lot of crater impacts over here, wasn't it? About here. Washington. What else we got? Little Rock, Kentucky. Definitely a lot of impact craters there. Okay. That one's got too much in it. What's that one give us? Black and white. What's all that? Alright. That one's a bit basic. It hasn't got any city names actually listed, it's just got arrows pointing in. That one's got no details. It's not enough. We got one that's too big. Let's see, can we scale it down? Google what it says here. Zero minus plus sign. So this is what's going to take a lot of time. Just finding the right information that you can use. How's that one looking? Yeah, it's a large one too, they reckon. Can't read it. It's just too small. Let's zoom in. Let's try it, I suppose. Can we see Skinwalker Ranch on here? Denver would be over here, wouldn't it? About here somewhere. Salt Lake, Utah. Yeah, I can't remember there was a straight path straight to the ranch when I looked at it last time. Road went straight to it, pretty much. So let's grab that and overlay it and see what happens. I suppose we can go Mexico. Yeah, that thing's in the way. Yeah, this doesn't need to be too detailed. Normally you want to put that map over top of the other one, wouldn't you? So let's do that. Okay, I need to scale it up. Make it transparent. Additive. Nope. Multiply. It's not too bad. Can see some circles here. But we need to line up the size of the map and stuff. Color dodge. Alright. Color judge burn. Can't see anything with that one. Overlay. Not so good. Multiply is the best one so far. Lighten. Nope. Darken. That one's not too bad. So darken. Screen. Nope. So darken and multiply with only two. So which is better? Can't see the outline. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely merging them. Okay. That's quite hard to see. Okay, we might need to open it. Wrigley. Oh, we have already. So we're looking at that, which is kind of blurry. Can't quite see that. There's a bit here. I kind of see it. Looks like it's down there somewhere. Alright, so it probably needs to be scaled up. There's a circle over Mexico. Yes, let's try this. Now, how big does it need to be? Closer, I think. Let's have a look. Pretty close, I think. I'm just looking at Mexico there. Let's have a look at the regular map again. There. Cutting the lower half. So it needs to come down a wee bit. There. So that needs to come down to there, I think it is. Come through there. Oh. And up here. It's off that way. So where's the edge of that? That doesn't make any sense. Now we've got to stretch it out more probably. Zoom out. Probably going to take a few attempts at this one. Oh, maybe less, no. Maybe I need to draw around. Yeah, it doesn't match up the top here though, does it? It's getting closer. Matching up there. You know, it's cutting down there. We're about to see the place names here though. Yes, that's another thing I haven't thought about. Still not clear enough to read it, is it? But I think that's got to be smack in the middle of. We got the big impact crater here. That's got to be right next to Skinwalker Ranch, right there, isn't it? It's complicated. So that's going to be up there. It's close. But if I keep it to scale here, it doesn't work out. That could be it. That's close, I think. But can we read the place names? We still might need to find a better way to do it. That looks pretty good. Where's Florida? Coming down. Florida. Okay, so it's got another one cutting through there. It's a wee bit washed out, isn't it? So where was the impact craters? There's another one coming around here with Florida. Why can't I see it? Should be coming around there. Related to that big circle. Okay. So why can't I see the big circle? Here it is. So that was coming through there. So that's way too high up. Oh, the map can't be in proportion then in that case. Gotta come down there. But then that goes out too far that direction. Still looks too big. That's too far away now. It's gotta be something like that. I think it's not in proportion. California has one on the outer ridge here. So that have to be there somewhere. So that doesn't line up here. That's got to go up further. About there, it's not too bad, and that's missing the point here. That needs to come down. Yeah, it can't be in proportion, it must be slightly out. Somewhere there. Although we've got more we go up to what's that place up there? Orlando? Quebec, so Quebec, where does it go to here? So that goes up too far, doesn't it? So we need more of the map up there. Let's see, how can we do that? Scale it down. But then we won't be able to read the writing. Too complicated. So we've got the water coming in there. Is that the water there? What, that way? Yep, it's got to be that, isn't it? There's cubic, so we cut it off there. So I think we've got to redo it. Now we get up to Iceland here. I think. How come we can't see that? So it's got all this up here, you see. Okay, so no wonder we're way off. Yeah, so that looks like that there. Oh, what happened there? That's the water coming in there. Yeah, we won't be able to read the place names. Unless we zoom in further and further. It'd be good if we just had the road template, maybe. How can we do that? Looks like a layer. Or what would really be good would be if we could create an impact for Google Earth. And put it on the spinning globe. That would be really good. Wonder if it exists. Data layer. Someone's probably done it for us. Data layer. Impact craters. That's not how you spell that. Craters. And Google Earth. I think they got a special name for the files, didn't they? We use that. Is that the same one we got at the moment? No, it's not the same. But maybe it's easier to work with. How do we shrink that away? Alright. Now, what's interesting, they got less on there though. And no way does it match this here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've only mapped the largest ones, maybe. Not even that. So where's the big one in the center here? Maybe that's just for the meteorite impact, is it? What did it say now? So we want asteroids as well. Asteroid impact simulator. Let's have a look at that one. What if it hit my hometown? We're getting sidetracked now. This activity must run in its own window. Asteroid comments. Okay, what are you meant to do? This looks interesting. Choose type. Okay, I don't think it's working. This iron asteroid is about the size of a school bus. Travels at 20 kilometers a second. Press go. Okay. Let's see what happens. It's doing something. Okay, I don't know what it did. Don't think it's working properly. Maybe Google abandoned using their map or something. Go. I'm confused. Let's not do anything. No. Let's try and edge. Seems to be doing the same. See, it doesn't look right here. Maybe it needs to be 100%. Is that any better? Choose impact location. I feel lucky. Okay. Try that then. Yes, in space. Choose the impact thing, asteroid. It's not working, is it? I'll post it down the side maybe and see if you can get it working on yours. Buildings knocked over. USA, come on. No. That was a bit of a disappointment, wasn't it? See if you have any luck with it. Let me know how you go in the comments. Why is that running so slow? I think this code is chewing up my CPU. Impact simulator. Anyway, it's not helping us get to what we want. It was still the best map here. By the time you scale it down, it's going to be too small, I think. Oh well, we could run with it, I suppose. %. Does it scroll up? No. How can we get the scroll? Maybe we can take a snapshot of that one. Looks too skinny though, doesn't it? Something's not quite right with it. So we know it doesn't go that high. So this is only like a little chunk. Okay, so try that one. Alright. That's not going to work. That one's too big now. So that would have to be way at the top here. There's the water input here. So that's going to be that bit up there. And it's got to stretch it. Obviously it's not proportional. But then the craters get stretched. Down there. Yeah, see the waterway's up here. So what's screwy with this map? That's not right. Craters can't be opticals. I mean, they can't be like ellipses. Ovals. It's got to be circles. There's the lake there, lake there. Let's get up to proportional. That's too big, isn't it? That's pretty close. It's close. That water looks too big. What am I overlooking? That's going out too far, isn't it? It's going to have to be distorted, surely. Oh. Yes, it's easier said than done, isn't it? So it's not right. Still. What am I overlooking? There's that bit there. That bit there. It's not even remotely close. It's going to have to be stretched. Something like that, really. So that means then probably have to stretch the other map out in that case. Alright, I could do that, I suppose. It goes in white. Have to be close to something like that. Anyway. I suppose you can sort of see some of the labels through it. But it's still not lined up. Yep, might have to flag it for another day. I thought I might better get this one done. It's got to be there. It's got to be there somewhere. Okay. That's all wrong again. Oh, let's get rid of that one. Maybe it'd be easy to get the other way after all. See, that sticks out there. Doesn't match up there. So it's going to be skinnier still, isn't it? I forgot not to use that. Keeps it in proportion. And we know it's not in proportion. This is way wrong up here. Ah, bugger. Don't use that. If only they used their Google Map for doing this. Can't see underneath it now. Damn it. You can see how that goes up there. And it bulges out there. Well, the angle's too much, isn't it? So it curves in there and curves around there, it's meant to. Something's not right with these maps. Yeah. Maybe I should do it in smaller chunks. That would make more sense. Zoom in further. I think we'll have to try it another day. I think maybe we could start with a smaller chunk, maybe down that part there first. But we need a more crisp image like this one. Maybe just bookmark that one. Let's try impact creators again. Okay, where was the map? I thought it was on here. Spread over O. There we go. That was from that one. I wonder if there's a better map. Nope. Nope. Still, that one looks the best one. And let's get a new image from it then. No, that's why it wouldn't allow us to do it. That's why we had lots of trouble. And of course it makes it dark when you do that. It's a bit wishy-washy, isn't it? I wonder if there's a better one out there. It's just going to take time to find it if it is. Doesn't allow it to zoom in on it. No. That'd be really good if we could zoom in and didn't have the city names. Look at that one, it's got like almost a double impact over the same area. South Africa. Maybe what I've got is the best already. I can't type. Images. See, that one comes up. Okay, what we've got here. Here's another map here. Again, it's different again, isn't it? You can see that's got even... It won't let me zoom in. So where's the big one over in Mexico there? Greater than 200 kilometers. See, that one's not that good. So what's this one? See, that's got a lot more. Maybe I said the other map's missing. That's more like it, isn't it? But it hasn't got all the big ones. Blurred events, but that's probably in the sky though. Yeah, it is. Not going back to the beginning of Earth. Asteroid Doi and impact craters. Energy. The Wikipedia one seems to be the best. But it's lacking. This has definitely got a lot more. NASA. Okay, let's have a look at that one. So that's in a 20-year period here. That's recorded it. And we got some around New Zealand there now. So what's the orange? Day 255, night 301, whatever that means. Universal time, maybe. Studies of Earth indicate about once every 5,000 years, on average, an object the size of a football field hits Earth. Once every 5 years, so we're in the lucky zone, are we? Football field size. Don't want that coming down. So when was the last football size? Does it tell us? No, it doesn't want to tell us, not to scare us. That was 50 meters? Come on, surely not. This asteroid about 50,000 years ago. This feature 1.2 km, almost a mile in diameter, is the first the scientists recognized as an impact crater. Impact of an estimated 50 meter sized asteroid. So 50 meters makes 1 mile across. Yes, so if it's football size, that's what, 300 meters, is it? That's going to be like that other map. That'd go out to the outer edges here. Yeah, the convex crater where it creates a little blob in the middle. There you go. Circuiting would say that was a base. Now you can even see here that we just got a white change in rock there for some reason. Yeah, on the moon they got these bright spots on the outer rims. Here you go, look. So is that something more from the meteorite or asteroids? Size of a Cheku-Lub crater. Alright. So they got some sort of magnetic thing, is it? Mapping it. What's it say there? Gravity anomaly map. Haha. See, this is something else we want. We know the one from South Atlantic, but we haven't got these other ones. Because that would tell us a lot. Especially paranormal sightings or paranormal events, and like if Skinwalker Ranch was smack in the middle like there, or some other place, right? What's the city on the edge of that one? Looks like it's Mexico something. So I wonder if anything strange happens there. Anyway, we're looking at that map there, trying to suss out if it's any use to us. That's only in a 20-year period. So these are like the small impacts, and they're everywhere. Everywhere on the Earth. Might just save that though. That's another map you need to overlay, really. But yes, finding a better map is no go. By the looks of it. But anyway, so it's 3 hours and 20 minutes already. Yeah, this shows how fast the time gets sucked in when you're into this stuff. So yeah, I thought we were going to get some go on this, get this completed, but you can see it wasn't easy. It's got to be close though. Then you need to stretch it out again. This is probably one of my longer episodes. That doesn't matter. It's close, I think. I think it's too stretched now. Zoom out. Well, we know this one here cut through Florida. Where is it? There. Almost the tip of it. And it's that circle here. So that's got a cut there. And we know this was going out this way. Oh. Yeah, somewhere. And now it's too wide. It's confusing. Leave that button alone. Florida there. And that's out there, isn't it? Yep. It's way too thick, so it's going to be stretched more, is it? Not right. Get off that. Keep wanting to press it. Because I'm used to keeping it in proportion. It's got to be too big. No. Too hard. Too hard. I would have put it in easy. Let's try selecting. How does it fit on this one? Ah. Definitely too stretched, doesn't it? Gonna have to come down more splodgy like that. That kind of fits better. Zoom in. Look up there. See, the angle doesn't look right. Here's a bit coming up here. Then it sort of goes. That seems to have more coming around, doesn't it? Yeah, see, it doesn't sort of match. Curvature. So even if we expand it out, it's not. So why is the map so different? See, the angle's wrong. What am I overlooking? It's like this map here. Maybe show more of the coastline, maybe. But then the little spikes here. See, it's that bit here. It should go out this way. Goes out that way. Holy moly. could be easy, but it's not. Because this is like a sea map. So some of this is underwater, I guess. Should be there. Yeah. That's not going to work, is it? Let's have a look. So where's all that gone up? Yeah, it's going to have to be squished down. There's that bit there. Doesn't make sense, does it? That bit there lines up with that bit. So what's all this out here? No. It definitely looks like it goes there though, doesn't it? What am I overlooking? To me that looks like it lines up. Hey? But then there's no C in that part there. That makes no sense. What am I missing? That looks like it's lined up. Underwater. There's the islands. C curves around a bit there. Maybe it needs to go off a wee bit more. Ah. It still doesn't make any sense to me where all this is. Okay. This chunk here. What's that say there? So that's the top of South America. we miss it. So it needs to be reduced a wee bit. Comes down there. So not right there. We'll get it eventually. Oh. Still not right there. How close is that? Way off, isn't it? So it's got to be down there. Aha. No, it's too low down. Drive you crazy, this. Okay. It's got to be too wide. Not skinny enough. Where's Florida? That looks like it's in the right place. Okay. Florida there. Florida there. You know that circle's cutting through the tip of it. All close too. So that looks right there. That's cutting through the bottom of the pokey island out there. And that's cutting the top. It's like top of the landmass. But we're not getting that till we top of the landmass. Florida, yeah. God, it's got to be damn close, isn't it? So there's something not quite right here. So bottom half's right. So let's squash it down. There. But what's that missing bit out here? Man, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, that's too high up now. Florida there. Florida, Florida. And there's a tip there. Still not right. It's frustrating. We'll have to come back to it another day. Maybe there's a different way we can do it. I'll draw around the circles.
You want potato with corned beef? Yeah?
Okay, that means I've got to get going. Okay. Well, leave that for another day. Don't save. If any of you out there that's also interested in overlaying that, perhaps give a go yourself. And if you manage to succeed, send it to me for next time. So just save that then. Yeah, bookmarked it already. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that damn hard. But it was. Okay. That's why I left it to last, of course. That's why I talked about the other theory stuff first. Anyway, I'll let you guys get away. I'll say good night and catch you on the next live stream, which will probably be more UFO stuff rather than research stuff. I might try and do the maps offline even myself. So I sort of got it pre-made and then we can sort of skim into it faster. Good night. Anyway, that was fun, even though it was frustrating. I'll say goodbye. And see you again in the future. That'll do. Get quite long, this one.